One of my favorite meals is chicken Carbonek. And this is where they make them, in the Carbonek Project building. So this is effectively, I mean, the Kazakhstan section feels like 2 levels in one almost, because there's a lot more platforming in this section. There is some combat, but it's much more cramped. I mean, we are in what Americans believe Soviet research laboratories are like.
What actually would feel like a tomb would be, as opposed to some of the tombs we've seen so far.
You might want to hold on to that thought for a couple of minutes into this video. I do like how there's an identical sign on this side of, I don't know, what would you even call this? It's an indoor train stop of some kind, because the train exploded at the end of the last video.
It's almost like a loading dock.
Yeah, so we have to go past that fan. It is treated in the same way that any of the other destructible environments are in terms of combat. And it also follows the same rule about accuracy and distance to the target. It's kind of hard to tell, but you can see that when you're out of range, the yellow exclamation mark icon kind of fades out a bit, like right there.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And as you get closer to it, the transparency will go back to 100%. Yeah, and it follows the same accuracy rules as using the aiming reticle does.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can use whatever weapon you have equipped to trigger those.
It's getting colder.
Like, I think at one point I triggered an environmental explosive with a grenade launcher in the last video. We have a new environment, and a new environmental obstacle, and I love that there has to be a tutorial prompt to show you how to jump halfway through the game. Like, I understand that this was a brand new control scheme, but I think that's going too far. Anyway, there's a new type of collectible exclusive to this level.
It looks as if you've stumbled into another tomb after all.
Ah.
He's been trying to get out since the 50s, but he's frozen to death, the poor fellow.
Now, we have what are effectively like apocalyptic logs, like the tapes from BioShock, except we don't actually get to see what they actually are written. Lara narrates to us what she reads.
Gone wrong. The KGB sealed the facility. He tried to escape through the vents, but got trapped.
My God.
It does kind of remind me of something similar that happened to the character log collectibles that were in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, where instead of getting like other voice actors to read them, it's Lara herself is reading them out loud. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's a neat idea, except I really wish that she would do impressions of the other characters. That would have made it far more entertaining.
Just a little bit, add a little bit of snark to it, yeah.
It is much colder in here than it was outside.
Or at the very least, treat it like she's an audiobook narrator.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Even on hard, the open electricity wires really don't do that much damage, all things considered. Especially compared to some of the other obstacles we'll be seeing. Yep, there's more of that Zed fighting between the standard definition and high definition textures.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've done the swan dive to go into water, but you can actually do it at any time.
Watch out!
In Tomb Raider Anniversary, with some of the tweaks made to Lara's moveset, swan diving is actually faster than the previous fastest movement in Tomb Raider Legend, which was just rolling.
I'm not sure turning on the power was a good idea.
Looks like a few things in there won't be getting the juice they need.
The heater must be one of them.
Amanda decided not to turn on the heater. She just likes the cold.
She's bundled up, unlike all the dead scientists.
Yeah, now we did very briefly at the end of the first video, we saw what Amanda looks like now. I wouldn't blame you if you forgot, but she's going to be getting a lot more screen time in this level. And as we'll see, Amanda has done some work. She has a new image now compared to the more innocent young American girl that we saw in the flashbacks.
Oh, okay.
Look at the lights. She's only found the emergency power.
She came in through the main doors. I don't think she's been here. Looks like there's a generator on the other side of the room. She would have started it.
This area also has one of the few instances of optional scripted dialogue.
It's a map of the facility.
Very retro. It probably looks like a carnival sideshow when the power's on.
Well, what makes this unique is that there's actually a follow-up to this dialogue once we've turned the power back on. I mean, that's the kind of thing you would see everywhere in a modern game from like the past 10 years. But in 2006, this sort of thing was a novelty. I don't know if I would call this a sneaky placement for the artifact, but it does at least require you to think a little bit. Although for some reason it's underneath the floor. Doesn't matter though, we can still pick it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Lara does have fall damage. If I'd gone like maybe a half a foot or a full foot
Looks like
further
you
than
can
that,
move if you wanted to.
Lara probably would have taken some damage or died, but it's
It sounds as if it's out of fuel.
the swan dive has always been a part of Lara's arsenal. It's just it's a bit easier to do and a bit more practical, especially in Anniversary specifically. By the time of Tomb Raider Underworld, Lara has a sprint, which is much faster than anything else. But in that specific point in the middle game, where swan diving is the fastest way to get around.
Oh, now that's pretty cool.
That's a pipe zip. You've seen hundreds of them before.
Zip just thinks everything's cool.
Maybe
Yeah.
pretty cool is like within the context of accidental, like found art or some other kind of modern art.
That should do it.
And what with all the gas flying around, she's only shortened her lifespan by a few months. She kind of got lucky there.
There you go.
And, well, we had that set up earlier. Here's the punchline.
You have to admire this map's simplicity.
And what do you know? It looks just like a carnival sideshow.
It's very cute that's like the one area in the game with that amount of attention to detail, at least when it comes to scripted dialogue.
And oh good, now everything's flammable.
I wonder if that's toxic. I guess it's coolant. But who knows what kind of lethal crap the Soviets were using.
I'd rather not find out firsthand.
I do like how a lot of this kind of advice is written where it's not just instructional. It's not just the characters saying, "Oh, look out for the gas or you'll die instantly." It's there's a conversation to it that helps to hide how, blatant the instructional part of it is a gameplay mechanic. That being said, there is one instance that's a lot more straightforward, let's say. Gonna come up in a few seconds here.
Stay back!
And it didn't even trigger properly. Like, that's only supposed to play once you actually jump upward onto the pipe. And then if you get too close while you're shimmying across there, then it triggers. Well, that's how it's supposed to work anyway. Well, what's this on the other side of the door? Looks fancy.
That looks like an experiment.
It's pretty cool.
Nope, nothing else in here is pretty cool. Just the torture chair.
Hey, that's her.
Amanda?
Damn it, Laura, I'm busy.
I see you've changed your look. That was you in Bolivia then, with Rutland.
I've been all over, and I'm going to places you can't conceive of. You're the one being left behind this time. Sorry.
I'm sorry, Amanda. If I'd known that you were alive, I swear I would have done everything I could to save you.
Please. I got over that a long time ago.
Wait, she's a goth chick now?
I saw that you left without even trying to...
That's what happens when you leave your college roommate and possible ex-girlfriend to die in a Peruvian ruin.
Big.
We'd thought of it as a memorial.
Whatever.
I left one of my shoes behind, Lara. I've had to walk with a strange lope for 5 years now, thanks to you.
Check out the big gun thing. How spaced out is that? Maybe it'll help you.
Well, this isn't a torture chair. I mean, it is going to cause torture, but not for Lara. Unfortunately, it's not working at full capacity yet.
Yeah, getting crazy interference on the video, too. I'd say what we have here is one of Nikolai Tesla's toroidal coil guns. Except that would be...
That revelation was so unbelievable that it caused Lara to try to kill herself and then glitch out of the map.
They theoretically need a lot of power like the Tesla tower across the way. If you could get that Tesla tower fired up, wow. I never thought I'd get to say that.
So again, this game had, assuming it had a proper 2-year development cycle, this would have basically been the developers saying, okay, we're going to try to get some equivalent of the gravity gun into our game.
Oh, yeah.
And the artifacts in this level, the balls of lightning that we've been seeing, though that's the energy source, and the sparks of electricity that are all around this area that are powering the Coriolis gun or whatever it's called. New enemy type, just a guy with a riot shield. It works pretty standard. That small arms do nothing, and you just throw a grenade to get rid of them. I think, depending on the circumstance, you can also use the grapple. I think I forgot to test it on him, though. So now our main objective is to get the coil gun powered up.
Don't get hit by any of those electrical arcs.
I thought you said it wasn't running.
That's just ambient discharge. If the tower was on, you'd know it.
And if I were the energy source, where would I be?
Up top.
Somewhere very inconvenient that requires at least 10 different jumping puzzles to get to. It's my guess.
AKA up top.
This is because of the strange controls. This is a bit harder than it looks. I think the hitboxes of the electricity are larger than they appear.
Another scientist. No warmth for him up here either. They funneled Tesla energy into the artifact, and there was an enormous discharge of some sort. The KGB shut down the operation, removed the core, sealed off the lab in sections, and left behind those scientists who weren't forcibly removed.
A peculiar turn of events.
It was also at this point I realized I had forgotten one of the artifacts is back down here.
Time to backtrack.
I did end up cutting out most of it, and also I just took a shortcut and ate the fall damage. What you didn't see is about 10 minutes of me not being able to get back up here because the jumping controls were glitched.
Oh.
Now, I'm not entirely sure if what I'm doing is an exploit here. It's possible that you might have to get this artifact from the other side. I don't really know.
don't think it matters. You got it.
Can the tower be powered up from here?
Not without the core. Looks like it's not here. I guess that's what those tracks in the floor are for.
This area is also one of the few sections in the game that has a unique game over screen, which we'll be seeing a bit later once we've turned the rest of the power back on. Yeah, that door, not going to stay open on its own.
Okay, so it's...
Plus, it's clearly missing a battery. We have to bring something in.
What are those hanging cords and sockets?
Decoupled high current cables. You're lucky they're off, or you'd be standing in the middle of a painful light parade.
Lara, I believe this is called an antipiece. You see, it's this concept in video game design where you're introduced to a new threat in a relatively safe and stable environment before you then have to go through it in a further escalated and harder difficulty under genuine pressure. I get the feeling that Lara does not play video games herself. I can't imagine her doing that.
No.
Funny enough, Lara Croft, the character herself, was, in the 90s at least, a highly sought after, not a spokeswoman, but as someone who does promotional material. She herself did commercials. Again, not the actress that her body was based on, not her voice actress, but the character Lara Croft was selling you things.
The 3D model of Lara Croft
Yes.
was selling you things.
Yeah, as promotional spokeswoman.
I vaguely remember that.
I don't remember exactly which products she sold, but I think it was mostly European brands. I know that Core Design were British and proud of it, which is part of why, for example, like the motorcycles that she drove in the original games were Norton, which was the big British motorcycle manufacturer.
Right.
We can deal with that.
Hello, Laura.
What the? How the hell did you get on this channel?
Hush, Sip. She must have taken a headset while she was rearranging your office.
You're so smart, Laura. Do you know why the Soviets called their project Carbonek?
It's the castle where Lancelot sought the Holy Grail. Not the first.
That is the one and only mention of the Holy Grail in this entire game, as far as I know. As far as this game is concerned, it's much more interested in Excalibur and that part of the Arthurian myth.
Probably right at home with all these Tesla contraptions, aren't you?
As much as anyone, I suppose.
The Russians activated a power in the artifact that literal minds can't handle, and it destroyed them. So don't push the wrong buttons.
You'd better not either.
But I know which ones are the right ones.
You've learned to read Russian since I last saw you, Amanda.
She hung up. What the hell was that about?
She's having difficulty obtaining the sword fragment, and she doesn't want to blow everything up in the process.
Maybe you should have told her what she wanted to know.
Trust me, after all of those years that we were together in college, I know Amanda very well. When she's having a bad day, it's probably just best to let her trauma dump and just be there as someone to listen to her.
Unlucky scientist.
Jeez.
He writes that at least a dozen of his colleagues were killed in the experiment. The artifact converted the Tesla voltage into something else, a wave of concussive force of some kind.
That's familiar enough. So why were they shut down?
They refused to repeat the experiment, and when the KGB tried to persuade them otherwise, it got nasty.
So the nuclear test facility that this is based on, the one in Kazakhstan, unlike Chernobyl, it didn't really have any major incidents. It was, not the site of any catastrophes. It was closed down in just before the Berlin Wall came down, because the Soviet government was going bankrupt and they couldn't afford to fund these kinds of experiments anymore.
Oh, man! Now that's how you do it!
Is that supposed to stop at some point?
It's not charged all the way. I don't know what's wrong.
How am I supposed to move it if I can't touch it?
The cable on your grapple is insulated.
Right.
Oh, how convenient.
I will admit that's not something I would have considered playing this for the first time and going, how am I supposed to move this? Oh, I couldn't possibly move it with the grapple because it's also metallic.
Okay, that's how it works.
Oh, wow, Zip. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, here we go. Full power, baby.
Yeah, Zip is clearly having the time of his life.
Now that's how you open a door. Man, I should have worked on mass marketing this tech. Tesla was a genius.
I prefer doorknobs.
Well, now the problem is getting back. And, well, we've got this giant, fully powered electric battery going with us.
The core must have powered these cables somehow. And those rails in the wall are the most convenient conductors around.
This is probably the most complex the game gets mechanically with the grapple. Which, I don't know, maybe with like early 2000s versions of Havoc, if this was about as this was about as intricate as they could get when it comes to manipulating physics objects.
Yeah, this is not a difficult physics puzzle.
Anyway, we talked earlier about Lara being a spokeswoman, and basically what I was trying to say there is that Lara Croft paved the way for other, much more famous digital spokespeople, such as Hatsune Miku.
She was a trendsetter.
Anyway, this is an optional game over cutscene here.
Judge! Lara, what are you doing?
Unfortunately, it's nowhere near as elaborate as, say, like the ones from the Survivor trilogy. But I do appreciate that they at least took the time to program something, even if it was pretty simple. There's something on the table there that kind of perhaps looks out of place in the former Soviet Union.
Huh. Didn't Indiana Jones find this in the bottom of a catacomb in a library?
It's a shield. 10th or 11th century. Probably recovered with the piece we're looking for. It resembles Lancelot's crest, doesn't it?
Yeah, what if the battery...
And that's the one and only mention of Lancelot in this game, I think.
It looks like a map. Have a good look and see what you can make of it.
What do you think it's for?
Maybe our knight needed help finding his way home. Or perhaps this piece wasn't all he had.
You think he stashed more of the sword somewhere?
Possibly, but the map is useless without a reference point.
I'll work on it. Going offline.
Splendid.
Oh, that's the best news I've heard all day. Lara just keeps finding more and more excuses to keep Alistair busy with some menial task.
So that he's not on the mic, yeah.
I empathize. Why that lack of interest?
And yet he said he was going offline.
He's also easily distracted. Undiagnosed ADHD, perhaps.
What exactly is this artifact we're looking for?
Older than you think.
If it's beyond what the area that Alistair studied for his PhD, then it's too old for him.
Right.
Well, we've powered up the Tesla gun, and thankfully some test subjects arrived right on schedule. And well, let's take out this Havoc physics engine for a spin.
I don't think I've ever been happier. I'm showing what I can do.
The game is trying to tell you a couple of weird things, particularly that the velocity, there's some kind of timed attack or or charged effect where you can throw things further with the gun. If you, it's been a while since I recorded this footage. I don't remember exactly how it works, but it is very strange.
I don't understand why you can't just pick them up. Oh.
Yeah, we could use the barrels. Close enough, I guess.
Well, so it works on Half-Life 2 rules. You can't pick them up until you get to Dr. Breen. Okay.
Yeah, so the important thing to remember for later is that, I mean, you can pull objects in, but you can also push them away without having to pull them in first. And we're actually going to need to do that in order to get across to the other side of this room. The game just kind of lets you fend for yourself here and figure it out. But we're going to have to get this platform and push it not just to the end of the track, but we've got to have its momentum go even further so that it turns 90 degrees onto the other side. And this part is where it gets tricky. You have to use its momentum against it effectively to lock it into place. No, we're not quite there yet.
Now, is this difficult to time with the ropes detached because of the...
No, because it's just the metal base, right? The hook
Okay.
at the top that you're using. And really, that's like the primary physics object. The rest of it is, I mean, in universe it's attached to it, but also as a game asset. There we go. Now it's locked into that little corner. That is something, that extra bit of effort, having to put it into the corner, is something you only need to do in order to get the last artifact. I always forget that there are actually some artifacts that require, occasionally, require lateral thinking. Like, particularly by the time of the very last level, at the very end of the game, they've clearly just given up. Like, the gold artifact isn't even anywhere special. It's just off at a corner halfway through the level.
A shame, really, that they didn't come up with a good puzzle for that one.
And, well, I can hardly blame them, because in that last level, there's only one puzzle per se, and it's pretty straightforward. I imagine they, ran out of ideas about how to make, like an alternate hidden path or something in there. But that's not, we're not going to see that yet. That's a few videos away. Also, unlike the originals, there is that hard limit of 3 med packs they can carry at a time. There's also just a single med pack, as opposed to the original, which had large and small medi packs. That's something they brought back for Tomb Raider Anniversary.
I don't think that would stand up to much force. That doesn't look particularly strong.
Yeah, they're rusted pipes, Lara. Come on now.
Again, Lara just wants to make sure that Alistair is away for as long as possible. So these are delay tactics on her end. I feel like this level was the one where they decided to try and actually play around with Havoc a bit.
Yeah.
It's hard now to think of it 20 years on, but thinking about not only just how influential Half-Life 2 was in terms of video game physics systems, but also how the growing pain period from game development standpoint of getting used to more advanced physics systems like Havoc and using them it was not as smooth as or as easy as Valve made it seem, let's say.
Yeah, Valve definitely had the pioneering games on physics puzzles. This isn't bad though by any measure. There are far worse examples out there.
Yeah, now that scaling thing we saw earlier, I don't think that's a glitch. I seem to remember that's part of whatever technological magic bullshit this is.
Hi, Amanda.
I'm sorry for what happened, but we can still work together.
There is no we, Lara. There never was. It was just me down there. Me and this. Do you remember it? I touched it, and it touched me back.
I don't think that was a good thing.
I tamed it then, and made it my own.
Behold, my sleep paralysis demon.
God! Amanda!
A little friendlier than it was in Paraíso, isn't it? I taught it how to fetch.
You're mad! It killed our friends, Amanda. and it
It's
all-
not enough that this game ripped off the physics system of Half-Life 2. It now also ripped off Dog.
All about a broader perception. I'd stay away from it if I were you, though. And you'd still be a little touchy.
See, the real unfortunate consequence of Amanda being left to die, it wasn't her turning into her goth phase. It wasn't her, plotting to destroy the world with whatever this thing is, which does not have a name. It is called the Unknown Entity. No, the real bad thing to come out of all of this is that she all of a sudden started using far more puns. And Bond one-liners and other things like that. The Unknown Entity has those kind of what are essentially just grenades that rise up from the ground. Though you do get the one bit of mercy where when you're turning on these switches here, Lara is invulnerable. And not only that, the attack played through the cutscene, so you didn't get immediately stuck.
Right.
So, this is why I mentioned earlier that it was important to keep in mind that you can push things back. So, the sword fragment is at the top there,
I know a little about Tesla technology.
but in order to unlock it, we have to push these metal balls and create a conducting chain. The Unknown Entity itself is just a distraction.
This must be the experiment that blasted those scientists 50 years ago.
Unfortunately, I wasn't really able to time it properly, but the boss fight ends as soon as you grapple the sword fragment.
Bye, Amanda.
Damn, you're lucky. You know that, right?
I'd like to think some skill was involved.
That cutscene direction should have changed. You should have been looking directly at the camera when she said that.
Leave where this leads.
Oh, you're going to find me extremely incredulous today.
Cornwall.
As in, take the M5 to the A30 call.
As the crow drives.
Well then, let's see who can get there first.
So, next time, the level after this is probably one of my favorites in the entire series. Perhaps not in execution, but at the very least in concept. That completion time, by the way, does not count all my various retries. That only counts the checkpoints. It only counts my successful checkpoint run-throughs. So, yeah, we got those coordinates. We're taking us to Cornwall, which actually has some connection to the, at least to some versions of the Arthurian myth, as well as, I mean, Amanda mentioned it earlier, but when the Soviets had Project Carbonek, which is named after Carbonek, the Grail house, the Grail castle that allegedly holds the Holy Grail.
Uh-huh.
I guess if you kind of stretch it, the Unknown Entity is like an alternate version of the Fisher King? I really don't know. But
Sure.
yeah, as far as I could tell, there's no real evidence of there being a mythological equivalent in Russian folklore to King Arthur. I mean, there are other various stories to both in Europe, Africa, and Asia, and also some historical figures like El Cid who might have been able to provide some aspects of the image that we have. Although a couple of years before this game came out, there was a controversial and largely dismissed theory that that the real historical King Arthur was either a Russian prince who moved to England, or alternatively a Roman by the name of Lucius Artorius Castus, who eventually gathered his own legion of Iranian and Russian soldiers, and then again, this is crackpot by the standards of serious mythological study. But I guess the fact that I bring up some crackpot theories is oddly appropriate given what's going to happen in the next level. Again, I'm trying not to give too much away here, but just the concept of this level is one of the highlights of this entire intellectual property, and I'm really looking forward to seeing your reactions to that.
Oh, I can't wait. I love at least where the story is going. Because now our villain is goth chick. That's always exciting, especially in early 2000s games. But
goth chick, former college friend and possible lover, Amanda Everett.
Her business card keeps getting longer. We can't explain it. The storytelling is very good in this. Despite the voices in your ear repeating themselves frequently. The rest of it is okay considering the vintage of the game. Tomb Raider does get better eventually, folks. If you've never played any of the games, this is kind of a midpoint in the series.
Again, the important context is that this is the first time that this series had ever played in this way, like a more typical third-person action adventure title.
This had to walk for the Survivor trilogy to run, and it walks really well, I guess. in much the same way that Lara Croft spokeswoman could crawl so that Hatsune Miku would sprint, and let us know about the glory of Domino's Pizza. Anyway, see you next time, folks. This has been a double update, which I did because this ended up being over an hour long. In hindsight, maybe I should have split up some of the other ones, but the pre-commentary videos are locked in. I'm not changing them. I've already moved on to recording stuff for the next LP. But yeah, this was an interesting experiment. Actually, that's probably something the Kazakh scientists would have said as well. Anyway, right before they died.
Yeah. It's they realized what would happen to the name Tesla in about 60 years, and they decided to off themselves while they were ahead. They didn't want to live. They did not want to live in a world with the Tesla brand
hanging over their heads. Yeah.
On the other hand, they could, if they had stuck around for like the next 40 years or so, they could have seen the best thing to ever happen to Nikola Tesla, which was being played by David Bowie in The Prestige.
True.